I've been beaten down a little bit, guys. I still hold the opinion that when it comes to the NFL, all that matters is winning. But it's hard to watch that Sunday night football game and think that this team is anywhere near what we thought that they were coming into the season. And I've got to admit, like I've been pushing back as long as I can to admit this, but this team just, I don't know, they're just not very good. They're just not very good. At least at this moment, they're not. It's not to say things can change. And I know I'm not telling you guys something that you don't already know. But I feel inclined to say, because it's been weighing on my conscience, that this team I watch them and they just don't click. Offense shows up, defense doesn't. Defense shows up, offense doesn't. It's all together. Just not a complete game yet from this team. And they've played, I think, some tougher teams. I mean, you can look at, they've won 2 out of the 3 games that they absolutely should have won. I think we were 8-point favorites against the Commanders, and I think we look back at that one and go all right, that line was way off. I think if they played today, even if the Bengals were as good as preseason they thought they were, that game is still a 2-point game or something like that. Because the Commanders look like one of the best teams in the NFC, and then obviously the Chiefs and the Ravens look like 2 of the best, probably the 2 best teams in the National Football League. But this team, like I said, just isn't, the defensive pieces that were brought in to supplement the ones that left aren't good. The reason this team got in the area to compete for championships wasn't just Joe Burrow, although he had a big part to do with it. It wasn't just Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow and T. Higgins and the offense that everyone talks about. It's the fact that the Bengals hit on defensive pieces in the draft, in the free agency. When you bring in Trey Hendrickson, absolute hit. When you bring in Awuzie, Von Bell, Eli Apple even, these pieces that were very, very prominent in that run that just, it feels like a decade ago, but it was just a couple years ago. And it's time to run that again because that's what every team does. You look at the best teams, they have their consistent pieces. They have their quarterback. They have their head coach. They have maybe one target. They have maybe a lineman that's there for over a decade, maybe a defensive lineman that's there for a decade. But the rest of the pieces, they move around. Cornerbacks, they come and go. Safeties, they come and go. Linebackers, they come and go. Running backs, interior offensive linemen, they all come and go. You've got to consistently supplement that. And that's where I'm at with this team, that they clearly, it's clear as day that they haven't done that well enough. And like I said, I'm not telling you guys something that you don't already know. It's 2-4 when you played the Patriots week 1, who looked by far the worst team in the league. You had 2 games that you should have won, a 10-point lead over the Ravens 2 different times in the fourth quarter, and a Chiefs that it took a miracle penalty. And I don't like doing if this play went this way, it all changes, because every team can do that. I mean, heck, if the Giants kick a field goal, the game that happened on Sunday night, is a lot different. So you can do that every single game, every single way. But yeah, this team, it's hard for me to have as much unbridled enthusiasm every time I watch them. And that's not to say things can change, because as we know, as fans as we are, it can spin on a dime. We can turn right around. All it takes is one game. You win by 25. This team's back. This is what we expected to see. Do it again. And if they did again, all right, this team looks like one of the best teams in the league. Put them in the top 10 of every team's power rankings. But I don't see it at this very moment. And I hate to be bleak. I hope I'm wrong. I've been wrong a lot, and we'll do that later on in the show. All the things I was wrong about coming into this season. But it is a little bleak. Now, saying all that, I do have an opinion that I absolutely still believe. An opinion that I still think holds true. I told you guys this. You said it on the show. I texted you guys this last week. But if you are the Houston Texans, if you are the Kansas City Chiefs, if you are the Baltimore Ravens, if you are the Buffalo Bills, all teams likely to win their division, you're getting the home playoff game. And this Cincinnati Bengals team finds a way with a weak schedule to scrap into that 7 seed, I wouldn't want to play us. I wouldn't want to play Joe Burrow. I wouldn't want to have to defend T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. I wouldn't want to do that over the other likely 7 seed teams. We're talking teams like a Jets, who, I mean, just seems like a dumpster fire. Their quarterback is Aaron Rodgers, Hall of Famer, but he looks about as competent as Derek Carr right now, or at least over the last 3 years. It's been about 4 years since he's had a game completing over 300 passing yards. Or a Pittsburgh Steelers team who, they play football. They play pretty sound football, but it seems to be a constant circus in there too. Going to bench Justin Fields, who got 4 wins for Russell Wilson. George Pickens, they're getting tired of that. I don't know what they put lead in the water over in Pittsburgh, but every single wide receiver and running back that comes out of there has a few screws loose. Those teams might be better today. Those teams might be better, more competent teams. The Indianapolis Colts, those teams might be better teams today. The Los Angeles Chargers, Jim Harbaugh, Justin Herbert, sure. Good coach, good quarterback. Those things typically win. But if I'm the Houston Texans and I get a home game, I earn it, and who comes in to play me round 1? It's Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals. I don't think anybody wants to say it. I think last time I hosted this show, which was directly after the loss to the Kansas City Chiefs, I said that the Cincinnati Bengals are the biggest threat to the Kansas City Chiefs three-peat. I don't know if that's certainly true, but I know for dang sure that a playoff game in Arrowhead Stadium, they don't want to see the Bengals rolling in. That's going to create a little bit of anxiety, not just for the Cincinnati or the Kansas City Chiefs fans, but for the team, for Andy Reid, for Patrick Mahomes, because they know that this Bengals team gets up for them. Now, guys, am I way off base in that opinion? I like I said, I understand from what I see right now, this team isn't anywhere near where we thought them to be. That's not to say things can't change. But if you are one of the teams that make the postseason, and by some grace of God, this Bengals team turns it around just enough, wins just enough games, scrap by just enough to be that 7 seed, you don't want to see Joe Burrow come into your stadium, no?
No, you're absolutely right, and that's what we keep talking about with the AFC, and why I think the Bengals do have a chance even with that terrible start, is because the rest of the AFC outside of the division champions is really not that good. I mean, the 5th best team in the AFC right now is the Pittsburgh Steelers. And if you go down the line in amongst those AFC teams, there's no one outside, again, of those division champions, or at least how they sit right now, with a quarterback even close to Joe Burrow. So,
right.
Yeah, I would absolutely take the Bengals over any of those other teams. And, with a 1-4 start, we're extremely lucky that we finished 4th place in the division last year, because that schedule being very, very light is going to give us a chance to battle back into this hunt. And, I mean, they are still very much alive. And that's the thing, though. The title of the video today, the Cincinnati Bengals must win to keep their season alive. I think we might have used that last week and the week before, too, and we're definitely going to use it next week and the week after. Right. Every single game here on out is a must-win. And you might say, oh, that's an over-exaggeration. That's, trying to put too much on their plate. But that's the reality of the situation right now. We're 2-4. Probably lose 3 more games the rest of the year and still be confident about making the playoffs. If you get down to 9 wins, you're battling with tiebreakers and coin flips and still maybe not getting in if, there's 7 teams with 10 wins. So I think the Bengals put themselves in a really hard spot where they're going to have to win out. But luckily, the schedule doesn't look too daunting, and the defense showed signs of life against the Giants. So hopefully it can all come together at some point, and they can be at least close to what we expected them to be at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, I think, again, the expectation factor regarding the Bengals, it's almost been too much to overcome. You get to a Super Bowl for the first time in I don't know how many years. You get to the AFC Championship back-to-back years. And now it's like, all right, we have this expectation in our minds that every year is an AFC Championship year. Every year is a Super Bowl year. And while we have the quarterback, so that window is always open, you can always get to the Super Bowl when you have your quarterback, which the Bengals do. I think the expectations coming into each season is Super Bowl or bust, Super Bowl or bust. I don't know if that's always the case. This year, our expectation was for the defense to be better. The Bengals made a couple of offseason moves that maybe at the time that we thought, okay, that they're addressing the defense a little bit. The offense, you still have T. Higgins, you have Jamar Chase. You had a tight end in Mike Gesicki, who we thought would be a role player. You have Chase Brown that's coming off a hell of a back end of the season last year. Zach Moss, very effective last season. And you look at this coming into the season with the last place schedule, and they should make the postseason. at the bare minimum. But we're expecting an AFC Championship. We're expecting the Super Bowl, and that makes it more It makes it more devastating when you start 2-4. Saying that, I'm looking at the AFC right now, and you guys kind of touched on it. I'm going to eliminate right off the bat 7 teams. There's 16 teams in the AFC. 7 of them are eliminated. 7 of them are just too terrible.
I'm intrigued to hear the 7.
Jaguars, Titans,
Okay.
Browns,
Okay.
Raiders, Broncos, Dolphins, Patriots. How many is that? That's 7, right? Yeah, it's 7.
I don't think you can eliminate the Dolphins or the Broncos quite yet.
I'm gonna eliminate them.
Okay. I mean, what are you going to do with that?
Do you think the Broncos are gonna make the playoffs?
I think the Dolphins and the Broncos are definitely both still alive. Yeah.
I don't think the Dolphins can play without Tua. So
Well, he's back in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think he's going to be back soon.
He's playing in their next game.
if they are 2-6 by the time he comes back,
Well, it's next game, so 2-4. If they
Right.
lose
They'd be
this
2-4, and he'd play against
Which
the
is where
Cardinals,
we're at.
potentially.
okay, that could happen, I guess.
But no, your sentiment still holds true.
But I'm not gonna buy the Miami Dolphins. I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna buy the Denver Broncos. Respectfully, Bo Nix, I'm just not gonna do it. The Bengals have to beat out a couple of teams here for a playoff spot, and you have the easiest schedule in the NFL going forward.
Yeah.
Or one of them.
Yeah.
Take care of business against the Browns.
Like I said, it's you look at these other wild card teams and you can comfortably say that behind the teams that are winning their division at this current moment, right? The Bengals are not better than the Bills. The Bengals are not better than the Texans. The Bengals are not better than the Ravens. The Bengals are not better than the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Those 4 things, unequivocally true. I can argue for everyone else in the NFC that the Bengals could be better.
Exactly. I 100% agree.
Right? The Bengals, like, are you going to bet against the Bengals if they play the Dolphins or the Jets right now? Are you going to bet against the Bengals if they play the Indianapolis Colts or the Los Angeles Chargers or the Denver Broncos or maybe the Steelers? I don't know. And that's the whole point, is what I'm seeing right now from the Cincinnati Bengals is not what I expected to see. And it's beaten me down a little bit that I've said all that matters is you got to win in the NFL. That's all you got to do. But we'd be lying to ourselves if after watching Sunday Night Football we didn't say, that one didn't feel great. We won. We kept it alive. That one didn't feel great. But it can flip all on its head if they find a way and scrap it. And I know for dang sure that if I get a home playoff game, if I'm the Texans, if I'm the Ravens, if I'm the Bills or the Chiefs, I certainly, out of every other team in the NFC, I don't want to see Joe Burrow coming into my stadium.